You know renewable energy includes wind and solar, but did you know it also included hydrogen? Stay with me and we'll talk about it. You and I have an insatiable appetite for electricity. Come with me and we'll look at the issues relative to wind farms and the communities that they serve. This is the Windfarm Guy. Hi, this is Dennis Stout and thank you for joining me for this episode of the Windfarm Guy. Now, you know, in renewable energy, there's wind and there's solar and battery storage and so on, but there's also hydrogen. And joining me today is Keith Malone. Keith, thank you very much for joining me. Keith is an expert. He would deny that, but he's an expert in the hydrogen realm. And I've asked him to share some things with us about what hydrogen and what it means for us energy-wise. Keith, thank you. Would you mind just starting out with what is the hydrogen concept and what does it mean?
That's a lot to kind of chew on, but to give you a sense, so first off, hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe.
Right.
It's everywhere, it's in most everything. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those resources that we do not have to cross borders in order to access it. The issue is really about how do we extract it? And there's so many different ways depending on, first off, where is that hydrogen? Is it in water? Is it in biomass or whatnot? And then there's so many different ways of doing those extractions, if you will.
Okay.
And so we see a lot of opportunities for hydrogen moving forward. We've been using it for at least, I think, 60, 70 years to refine petroleum, to make ammonia and fertilizers, to make silicon chips cleaning products, whitening products. And moving forward, we're going to be using it for mobility, power generation, and even energy storage, and even things that don't readily come to mind for me.
Right. I remember back in whatever it was, 9th grade, it was junior high, in the earth science class, we had the probes down the water, and it ended up with hydrogen over here and oxygen over here, separating that through electrolysis. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that still the process you use today for part of it? Because the world is made mostly of water, so we should not run out of this resource.
Right. So electrolysis is one way that we can make hydrogen. Electrolysis is taking electricity and splitting the water into its components of hydrogen and oxygen. But there are other ways as well that we can do that. We use currently, the one we have traditionally used to extract hydrogen from natural gas is called steam methane reformation, where we basically take really hot steam to crack out the hydrogen from that natural gas and even from the steam itself.
Oh, wow.
And there are many other methods that I could go into, but those are the ones that seem to be the most well known.
Okay. That's good as far as the concept of hydrogen, but let's carry that further to using it as energy and using it to power vehicles. And I mean, man, how do we get from A to B here?
Oh, well, or do you want me to describe how we, for example, fuel a car, or do you want me to back up further about how we make and transport it, or all of it, or?
No, what I really mean is, let's kind of skip the making and transporting. We might come back to that. Sure. But to the ultimate consumer, why do they even care?
Actually, what we want to do, especially in hydrogen mobility enables us to actually give people cars, buses, trucks, and more that operate in almost the exact same way that they get from their gasoline car or their diesel truck. Mm-hmm. Probably more so than our battery electric siblings.
So this really honestly could be a replacement for battery electric siblings.
Most likely what you're probably going to see in the future is you're probably going to see a mix of vehicles. There are expectations, for example, in the light duty sector with cars and pickup trucks, there is the likelihood that battery electrics will excel in that category, but it's not to the exclusion of hydrogen mobility. When it comes to the heavy duty realm. In some cases, you're going to want battery electric buses and trucks and whatnot. But in other cases, you may see the value of hydrogen, or you may see the value of a mixed fleet. And that's what, if you talk to a lot of people in hydrogen mobility, what we see as the future. These mixed fleets that include battery electric, fuel cell electric, and probably even hybrid vehicles, the traditional ones like we see with the Prius and others.
Okay. Now, many of our viewers are, in fact, probably most of them are landowners, which a large part of those are farmers and ranchers, and they use big equipment and so on. Would that be a future application for the farm equipment? I mean, these
Absolutely.
are massive pieces of equipment. Pulling, they need a lot of torque. Do these have torque?
Yes, they do. And in fact, what we may see ultimately with farm equipment, it could be a couple of things. There may be cases where you're going to want battery electric farm equipment. You may want fuel cell electric farm equipment. And there may be some cases, and we're beginning to see this more, where they're going to be using combustion engines that utilize hydrogen. Combustion using hydrogen. And we're beginning to see that emerge now in a way that we haven't seen before. Because there may be some use cases where combustion engines make more sense.
Now, is that along the lines of, and I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer, but the cars that run on water, is that really is this the same technology you're discussing?
No, not really.
It's okay to say no.
The output usually in these cases tends to be water or a form of water. So.
Okay. All right. See, I told you I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. But there's so many new technologies, and this is one that very much intrigues me. And I appreciate you sharing teaching that seminar earlier here at RE Plus here in Houston, and I appreciate you taking the time today to visit with me. What have I not asked? What does the viewer need to know about this technology that will really excite them?
Oh my gosh. Not just excite them, but also calm them down. Sometimes we have some stereotypes or myths about hydrogen. Hydrogen is safe when used appropriately, just like with any form of energy, whether it's gasoline, diesel, batteries, natural gas. You need to respect this energy source and create safety systems that work well with that. We have an excellent, I think a really strong safety record with hydrogen, not only over the last 70 some odd years, but even with some of the newer technologies that are emerging, especially with on-road mobility. For example, in California, we have at least 20 years of experience with hydrogen stations and hydrogen vehicles. So in that sense, I like to tell people when they have questions, I explain to them, first off, when we train firefighters about hydrogen, they're like, okay, got it. Need to respect the fuel, need to understand. In some cases, I've had firefighters say I would rather deal with a hydrogen vehicle than a gasoline vehicle. Remember, hydrogen has some interesting properties. One of them is that it has a wide flammability range, so we need to account for that, but it's counterbalanced by the fact that it's 14 times lighter than air. So you create safety systems where you allow that hydrogen to escape, and you don't want to create a situation where it aggregates. But once you tell people that, firefighters are okay with this, you find that they calm down a bit, and then they're very ready to have a discussion of what does hydrogen mean for me, and how cool is this car? Can I drive it? What can I do with it? But hydrogen is interesting for so many different reasons. We're going to see hydrogen emerge for drones and in aviation. In maritime, we're beginning to see hydrogen used. In California, for example, we have the first hydrogen ferry operating here in North America. We're going to hopefully be seeing a car ferry, a project launch in the state of Washington. That's going to, it looks like they're going to borrow designs from our Norwegian colleagues, because Norway is very active in the maritime sector. It's just really exciting because we're really at the starting gate. We're in the earliest stages of this new and emerging market for any number of reasons.
Nice. Well, I'm really glad you commented on the safety of hydrogen, because that's huge. Because we've all seen images of like the Hindenburg and whatever, and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing is horrible. But to know that not only is it safe, but even firefighters are like, no, 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 this is much better than dealing with a combustion engine and whatever. So that's good to know. That's very good to hear, because I think that'll be a question that some of the viewers will want to know. Do you see everything you've described is like even transit or ferries or whatever? Let's just call them small scale. And do you see this being a fuel that could be grown, scaled up for production of electricity for to go down transmission lines for homes and such? Is it that type of technology?
So what we're going to probably use hydrogen for in terms of power generation, it could be things like if you are in an isolated community, hydrogen starts to make really good sense, because if stored properly, you can store it for seasons, not just days.
Like on an island or something, that would be a good application.
Absolutely, because then you can use your wind and your solar sources, or even geothermal, to create that hydrogen and store it. Obviously with geothermal, you have access to it all the time, but there's going to be moments where you're not needing all the power that's creating, so you're able to kind of store that in addition and have that at the ready to generate additional power if you need it. Hydrogen also starts to become this really interesting an even larger energy storage operation, where we use salt caverns to store that hydrogen, to store excess hydrogen generated by solar and wind and geothermal and nuclear. And these salt caverns, we're going to be storing at the level of not just gigawatts and terawatts, but even petawatts of power. Wow. Remember, we have the oil reserves here in the United States, and while they may not completely go away, we're going to want other methods of energy storage, and hydrogen becomes, when paired with salt caverns, a very interesting option, to say the least.
Wow, just trying to think in the future. This has so much potential at many levels, and that's very exciting. Keith, thank you, man. I can't even tell you that I understand everything you said. This is some crazy stuff, crazy exciting stuff too. But thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining me. This is Dennis Stout, and I'm the Windfarm Guy. Thank you for watching. Working together, we can make good energy decisions and save our planet. I am the Windfarm Guy.